Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Clayton and James Show. My name's James, and Clayton captain Cole Palmer last night, and I didn't. Good morning, Clates.
Good morning. Yeah, if you told me that Chelsea would score four prior to the game and Palmer wouldn't be involved in anything, I'd say, yeah, you're probably bang on.
We're going to talk about something that could lead to kind of a huge swing across the FPL game week that Mo Salah could blank, and it might prove quite immaterial. But it was a lot of debate about captaincy yesterday. We're going to come back and cover that off and bits on last night's results. We won't go into too much detail because we will obviously cover again on the game review pod on Friday, and there's no FPL deadline this coming weekend. Obviously, remember because it's FA Cup fifth round. We're going to talk a little bit about Arsenal because I think Clayton's not really had much opportunity recently to talk about how he feels in relation to the title race, etc. Going to have a bit of a discussion about home and away results, something I've been looking at for a little while. I did a piece on Patreon last week about away results on the rise. We're going to have a discussion about why that might be happening. Euro Focus this week takes us to the Netherlands. Where me and Clayton are both playing next week, but we're going to be looking at Clayton's opponents. And on this day is a League Cup final from the past. But we will start with last night. What did you watch first and foremost, Clayton?
I had quite a interesting evening of football consumption. So I watched pretty much the first half of Brighton Bournemouth. I think that then overlapped with kickoff in Chelsea Southampton. So I think I watched the first 15 minutes of that to then which is when I then switched to Barca Atletico, which I think kicked off at half eight, and I watched the first half of that. So I didn't watch a single full game last night, but I basically watched
Was the
90
second
minutes.
half past your bedtime or
No, I had some work to do, unfortunately.
no?
But yeah, so I caught quite a bit of it. And do you know what? The first half in Brighton Bournemouth, I don't know if you watched the same game, but it was carnage. It was just end to end nonsense. It's like no one could control the football, but it was great fun to watch.
We planned this badly, yeah, because I watched Brighton and Bournemouth as well. I just thought it would be the most intriguing game last night, actually. Despite the fact it was the only game going on that I had no fantasy interest personally, and I was like, yeah, that's the one I want to watch, really. So yeah, it was good fun. I mean, Brighton had a big XG in the first half, although heavily influenced by João Pedro. Yes, he of Troll, who many sold at the weekend, scored a penalty, but. The dilemma for João Pedro owners goes on because Danny Welbeck come on and obviously scored the winner. Justin Kluivert got an outstanding equalising goal for Bournemouth. So that was quite swingy if you're a Utara or Semenyo owner versus Kluivert. Yeah, good game. I think Brighton just about deserved to win it, I think, across the 90. They put themselves right in contention for the European places. Dean Howson, I'm pleased to say, following my deadline stream yesterday as well, made a miraculous recovery from an ACL injury. It was a massive rumour went round in the hour building up to deadline that he'd had an ACL injury.
Oh wow, I hadn't seen that.
Fake news, obviously, and that's the danger of news around the time of the deadline. So glad that he's all right. I know Ryan Christie went off injured, and I've spoken about his importance. You've got Zabani, Christie potentially out a game with 28 checks notes. Yes, they're playing my team. Suddenly, there's things started going my way. I remember a couple of years ago, the first year under Arteta, you kind of really challenged for the league. It's like every week someone got the big player got injured before they played you or got suspended. It was like, oh, João Pelini's got his 10th yellow card. What's next? I don't even need to look. It's got to be Arsenal. Oh, yes, it is. Like it felt like that. And there's a few things is like Tottenham have obviously had a lot of things go against them across the last couple of months. Just feels like a few things starting to go their way. Maybe that will change at White Hart Lane this evening. Good win for Fulham at Wolves despite heavily rotating. And Villa got smashed at Palace. And it looks like I've not watched a lot of the game. I've seen all the goals and stuff. It looks like Villa played a back three last night
Oh, did they?
to
Okay.
match up against Palace, and it's obviously not back. It's backfired because Palace have racked up massive like underlying numbers from last night. It looks like it was probably a fair score. When they're at it, they're at it. Palace have finished last season very well and kind of found themselves in a little bit of form now as well. But the headline from last night, from the fantasy perspective, is of course what happened at Stamford Bridge. Chelsea winners by 4 goals to nil, and Cole Palmer with nothing. First and foremost, if you backed Cole Palmer like Clayton did for the captaincy, it's not a mistake. It's not outcome driven. If I told you before kickoff Chelsea were going to win 4-0 and Cole Palmer was going to post an XG of over one, yeah, I'd have been joining you.
Is that what his XG was? Yeah, over one.
Well, I mean, he had two really good chances and one that Ramsdale saved. I think it was at still 0-0. the XG is like over zero point 0.6. It's a huge chance. Consider that a penalty is what, 0.75 or something. Huge chance, which he'll nearly always put away. It's a great save. He could have squared it to Nkunku as well. So it's just not gone his way, and it's obviously off a period where he's had several blanks in a row. What made you choose to go with him, Coach?
You can probably answer your own question there. If you remember the discussion we had on our Patreon pod yesterday when we were previewing the games, right? It was a simple thing of we on our Patreon pod we go through, we do score predictions. I predicted I think Chelsea to win
5-1, you said.
5-1,
Yeah.
yep, and Liverpool to win 3-2. It was based on that. I thought Chelsea would score more goals than Liverpool, and I thought as a result Palmer would be involved in more goals than Salah. Like not much more to it than that, to be honest. And I know, and again, it wasn't a case of me trying to take Salah on or trying to do anything different. The way I play the game, the way I play the captaincy, I pick the guy that I think is going to score the most points. Insight. It just didn't pan out that way.
There was a massive surge, it felt like yesterday, where, and I know a lot of people had been on Palmer captain like since the game reopened on Saturday, but it felt like there was a massive surge yesterday. I felt a little bit like a lone wolf posting my team on socials with Salah captain. Just felt like everyone on socials was on Palmer. I think there were two reasons for the massive surge for it. One, the analytic data was suggesting that Palmer was the better choice. And two, Southampton are fucking shite.
See, that's interesting. I'm not as engaged on social media at the minute, but had I seen, I'm a real, I'm not an analytical person, but I really valued analytics more than kind of subjectivity. And I think had I known that, I would have doubled down. If I'd known that even the analytics was suggesting Palmer, that would have even more confirmed the decision for me.
Oh yeah,
But
you wouldn't have been looking around and had any reason to think I'm wrong here.
right,
And I stood even after the outcome. I don't think you were wrong or anybody else was wrong to go to Palmer. It's just it's unlucky. If I say this all the time, if you're someone who's influenced just by the outcome, you're not going to be good at this game.
generally good advice for
It's
life as well.
happened. Yeah, I mean, look, I always say, are you happy with the decision process? At the time you make your decision, be happy with your decision, and what will be. I realize it's difficult not to feel like it's a bad beat this morning. It is. But if Salah blanks tonight, it's not. Palmer can still. I mean, who knows? Salah might get sent off tonight.
Fingers crossed.
I mean,
I think it's unlikely, but
imagine it would be. I know
it would be funny.
people are saying, oh, putting like Palmer in FPL folklore, kind of comparing it to the Havertz Salah one.
The
So
7-0 one.
yeah, so I
Okay.
captain Havertz that one.
Same.
So I've had, I've been on the other side of this. I captain Havertz in that one. They beat Norwich 7-0. We got absolutely nothing. It's like
Oh, I did the
you've
same.
got to be kidding me. And then the next day, and I'd even used the words on the Friday and went, yeah, I'm taking it on. It's not like Mo Salah will get a hat trick at Old Trafford on Sunday.
I
And that's
remember that.
exactly what he did and absolutely destroyed me. Brutal swing. But putting Palmer into folklore and he's blank against Southampton. Well, unless Salah goes off tonight, it doesn't matter, does it?
Nah,
The problem
it's
is with Mo, you feel like one goal it starts at 9 almost. That's how it
yeah.
feels.
And that's the thing. Again, when I was doing the predictions, like, did I think Salah's gonna blank? No, I thought there was a potential for a Palmer hat trick in there. Like, I thought there was a potential for a few returns, not just one. So
That's why it'll feel bad now as well, as you're thinking, I don't think Salah's going to blank tonight, but he
exactly.
might. He might. And we know his away numbers are like actually far better than his home. Kind of leads back into a conversation we're going to have a little bit later. No, I just wanted to kind of chat out and say, I think for anybody who made the Palmer decision, right, don't fret it. It's not a mistake.
No,
You took an opportunity to take him on. There are, by the way, I think this is important. There are going to be a lot more opportunities to take Salah on across game weeks 30 to 34, particularly. And in fact, even throughout the end of the season. We made a case that period, sort of 30 to 33, that Salah's not the best captaincy. And obviously, you can add 29 in that because he doesn't play. So
yeah.
there are opportunities again if you want to do it. And it doesn't mean because this has happened this time, you shouldn't take that opportunity if it comes up again. If you
No, the
believe in
only
it
thing
again next time, do the same thing.
The only thing I'd say, and like this is the way I make peace with it as well, when I make a decision like that, I'm well aware of the risk I am taking. So when it doesn't work out, I'm not sat here feeling sorry for myself. I accept the risk that I took on, knowing that, yeah, what you said, like I believe my decision making process was fine, but I was aware of the risk. I took it, didn't pay off. Oh well, shit happens. On to the next.
People hindsight merchants, oh, he's out of form, yeah, but playing Southampton can breed form. For
You're out of
example,
form until you're in form.
I only watched Chelsea Southampton up until the first goal, which was scored by Nkunku, who I bought in FPL as part of a -4 yesterday. He's nice little 12-point return. So, a fixture like that can breed some form, but I don't think it even breeds form, right? Because on what I watched, he was non-existent. And Nkunku, he takes the
Wow,
goal
really?
really well. It's a brave goal, but I'm looking at it going, he don't look like he's going to get involved to me.
That
Sure enough, bang, he obviously
that's
does.
interesting because yeah, the 15 minutes I saw, whenever he had the ball, he looked like he was going to lose it. His decision making was wrong. So it's interesting that that kind of extrapolated throughout the whole game.
Is no, I'm not going to sit and go, I mean, I literally looked at some of his data in the last few games and I'm like, that's shit. I'd watched Chelsea play at Brighton twice and thought, that's shit. So there was nothing to other than just going, I'm just attacking Southampton and Leicester in the next two. That's it. For me, that paid off. For those who've gone Palmer captaincy, unfortunately, it looks like it probably hasn't. Had a good night in FPL. We both got Levi Colwell.
We've both got the same score, mate.
Remarkable statistic on Levi Colwell. I bought Levi Colwell in game week 17, I think, and I've started him twice.
Wow. Do you know what? I reckon mine's similar because I don't know when I bought him, but it feels like a while ago. But I feel like every week I'm having a decision and a dilemma, like whether
I
I start him or
I
not.
I bought him to cover me, and then Kene Tete got injured. And this goes back to something Suj said a few weeks ago. A few things gone your way, James, and you have to look at this as the same, right? So I bought Levi Colwell early because his price was going up on a Saturday night. It was an early transfer, getting ready. Chelsea had great fixtures over the winter period, if you remember. And the next one was going to be Everton, which ironically, I ended up benching him for despite buying him, and he did keep a clean sheet. The only other game I started him for, by the way, was Ipswich away, and I think that was a 0-pointer. And I had him come off the bench for a 1-pointer the other week with Gakpo's no show in the double. So I've had 1 point of prior to last night, 1 point of Levi Colwell since I bought him in game 17. But not like he's been a disaster because he's been sitting on the bench for me. But as a consequence, it is weird. Had I used him more, I might have attacked something else because they'd been like, they don't keep clean sheets. This is shit. The news broke out about Kenny Tete being injured. So I was like, well, I need to get Castagna. This looks like a gift as well. And they had Southampton that weekend. So I was never not going to play Castagna over Colwell. So I brought him in, hardly used him. He sat there primarily with this in mind at the end. And there you go, bang.
Well, that's the way it goes sometimes. Yeah,
It's lucky, isn't it?
I, yeah, but
Yeah, it is. It
it
is.
is.
It's
But who
fallen.
cares?
He's fallen lucky, like I said. In a weird way, I didn't use him and he's been shit. So I've not had them shit points in my team. And it's come back around where obviously inevitably in these two fixtures, intentions to use him. So, had a nice jump last night, nice return from Mateta as well. But the week is not over, and anything I gain this week only feels like what I've lost over the last couple of weeks in any case. Something else that's been lost over the last couple of weeks feels like, I presume, Clayton, bless you, is the title race.
Did I not mute myself when I sneezed there?
You
Thank you.
did, but
Oh,
I
okay.
saw you do it out of the
All
corner of
right.
my eye while I was looking at the
Thank
league
you.
table, which probably you don't want to look at.
Yeah, I think that's what caused the trigger to sneeze. It's
Sorry, mate. You've
oh
not really had the opportunity to speak about Arsenal other than a little bit on our Patreon pod yesterday
yeah, it's
morning.
been nice not having to speak about.
I'm not forcing you to do it now, mate. You said that you think you're going to get beat tonight.
I did, and
So
I did.
I presume you're on a negative spiral. Well, not spirals, probably hard. We're in a negative mood at the moment about
I'm
Arsenal.
I'm not because I've made peace with what I think my expectations are for the rest of the season. I was Saturday's result hit me really hard. Like I am quite an emotional football fan, so like I get when I'm in the stands, I'm quite loud and proud. Like I get myself up for like 50-50s and all of that. But like going 1-0 down was one thing. Once the red card happened, I sat there almost like emotionless, just felt like I'm resigned to what's happening for the rest of the game. And like there were things in the game that traditionally would get me hyped, like 50-50s and like half chances. I sat there feeling numb. Like I can't explain it other than I just felt numb. And like whenever I'm over at the Arsenal, I always make a day of it, always make a social. It's my chance to catch up with people that I don't really speak to every day or speak to weekly. So like that's my social pillar where I catch up with people. And I couldn't be asked, and I just went home straight away. I ended up playing PlayStation with my mates from like 7 p.m. till 2 a.m. just as like a bit of therapy, and it hit me really hard. And I think coming into the new week, Monday, Tuesday. I think I'd processed it and grieved it already, like to the point where I went to the pub on Sunday with my mates. One of them's a Liverpool fan, and I was watching the game with no Arsenal perspective on it. Like I knew Liverpool were, well, I thought Liverpool were going to win. I watched them win, and it didn't do anything to me. The damage was already done on
Done.
Saturday, and it's interesting. Like I don't know if you remember this. The first patron pod we did, it was literally I found out on that pod pretty much about the Havertz news, so I kind of had to process it as it was happening. And I said my first, and I think that pod was hard to do because I was reacting to everything and I hadn't really had time to process it. But I think it was good to do that because it almost told me what my gut was saying. And on that pod, the first thing that came to me was my headspace has immediately shifted to protecting what's below us rather than looking above. And then, of course, we go on, we beat Leicester. But I think the thing that happened with the Leicester game was you talk about outcomes about 10 minutes ago. A lot of people focused on the outcome of Leicester. We were garbage for 70 minutes. We were awful. And I think a lot of that got lost in analysis after the game because Marino came on and you're thinking about this new solution. But it's a 20-minute sample size. And you watch us against West Ham. And it was bad. It was really bad. And one thing I said when we were reacting to the news initially was we will drop a lot of points. And that's what made me think my headspace shifted to when I say protecting what's below us, I mean like solidifying top four, top five. I know that will sound silly and dramatic to some people, but I don't think it's out of the equation that Arsenal drop points in more games than people think now. Especially, I mean, Saka Martin, like I should say, and this is without Saka Martinelli. I think when they come back, my confidence will shift slightly in
Can I
terms
just
of
jump in and say I think you
go for
probably
it.
need about 4 wins to guarantee top five.
Yeah, but like that's where my headspace is at in terms of okay, maybe not top five, like top three. That's what I'm thinking of for the rest of the season, if I'm being totally honest to myself.
None of them teams are catching you, mate. None of them are consistent enough. None of them are anywhere near 2 points per game, mate.
No, I know, and I'm not saying it to illustrate like, oh, I think they will catch us, just more where my headspace is at in terms of what is possible for the rest of the season. It's not at all for a second looking at what's above us because I don't think we are capable of doing that with what's available. And I think the sample size again of what I've seen with what we've got available at the minute was the 70 minutes against Leicester, the 90 minutes against West Ham. It was poor, and that's why it leads me to not feeling like we're in a position where we're able to go to Forest and win with what we've got tonight. And I must say, like on the injury front, like I don't think that's an excuse for what I watched on Saturday. I do think with what was available on the pitch, we should have done better than we did. And that's what I really liked Arteta's post-match presser actually. Like he was very accountable, very clear in his communication. So yeah, that's a bit on where I'm at. So like to the point where are you asking if I'm in a negative headspace? I feel sad about the way, like really sad about the way the season has panned out, especially because going into it, I was genuinely very, I wouldn't say confident, but very optimistic in our ability to put up the required points to challenge for the league. And the way that the season has kind of panned out has made me quite upset. But in this moment today, I mean, sure, my mood will probably get worse when I have to, well, if I watch us lose tonight, but I've kind of made peace with what I think the rest of the season's going to be. And as a result, when your expectations are something that aren't too high, it's pretty hard to be disappointed.
I know where you stand on this, but do your friends who you attend games with, have they got any questions over Arteta?
A couple of them have questions on the game model, like his kind of deviation from accessing central areas and the reliance on attacking in wide areas and how we maybe look a little bit more turgid on the eye. In terms of questioning him as the manager for Arsenal, nah, not a single one of the people I hang out with, no. Not within my circles, no.
Because look, in comparison to my team, you've had a very good season, right? My team's felt like a massive, it's like getting hit in the face with a fish every fucking week, is how it felt. Now, Saturday wasn't that case for me, right? I had an away win, you lost at home, right? That's the magic scenario. The team you support wins away, and the same team your rival loves, loses at home. That's the magic day. Now, of course, Saturday night, after a bit of match of the day, wasn't too tired. You know what I did? I went and watched the sort of shit that you wouldn't, right? Because I want to see Arsenal fans in meltdown, mate. And a lot of them are very much of the like, get him out, get him out. He's got to go. We're talking about Arteta here. And I do think that's a massive reaction. But I also feel like putting so much intense pressure on yourselves, some of these people. So it's very much like, if you don't win the Champions League, he's got to go. Well, do you want to sack him if he do wins the Champions League? Like, if he doesn't win the league next year, he's got to go. And I just think, remove yourself for a bit here. And there's a real danger when you talk about trophies. There's a thing that comes up a lot with Tottenham at the moment as well. Tottenham haven't won this, that, and the other. But so many teams are like that. It's so much more difficult to win a trophy now than it was 10, 15 years ago.
Listen, I get the pressure. Like it's when you've been, yeah, like you said, you know where I stand, but I can understand criticism because when you have been in charge for the amount of years you have and you've won one FA Cup with the outlay financially that has been there, I get it. You're going to get criticism. What I can't quite get on board on with, and it's what you just said there, when you remove yourself back from things, and it's kind of related to the outcome based discussions we had earlier around FPL. When I look at Arsenal under Arteta and evidence and facts, sure, evidence, facts, people may say, okay, they bottled two leagues in a row. But ask yourself why them things happened. Like, what were the factors that caused that to happen? What is the reason we believe we're seeing Arsenal the way we are this season? Because I think there are, and this is like when people say it's excuses, like, what's the difference between an excuse and an explanation? Because I do think there are explanations for things that people sometimes almost don't want to accept because it doesn't
Like
allow for
Ange and
them.
the injuries. It's an
Yeah,
explanation, but it is an excuse. It
yeah,
kind of
but
falls on
like,
both lines.
but again, it's if you said to an Arsenal fan, like if you gave the examples of the scenarios that we faced this season at the start of the season and said, with all of this, this is going to happen, what would your expectations be? It wouldn't be to win the league. And coming back to the Arteta thing and understanding criticism, like, and even this is one thing where I'm quite critical of him, and I've said this before, like, we have one style of play, plan A. It's a bit naive to try and play the same way without your Avengers out there like that. So that's something that I'm critical of. But in terms of evidence and facts on him as a manager, all I have seen is a manager that has. I think I over-index on behaviors because I think behaviors are more indicate in they're better indicators and better predictors of what you're going to see. All I've seen from him is in moments of adversity, he learns, develops, grows. When shit hits the fan, he gets better. All I've seen in his tenure at Arsenal is consistent progression in terms of points in a season over the 38 games. And that for me is a trajectory that I have seen facts and evidence of him improving. When he took over, I was thinking we were years away from being in the upper echelons of world football. And like we've still got a way to go. But as long as he's in charge of Arsenal Football Club, I will enter every single campaign thinking that with a fully fit and healthy squad, we are capable of putting up a title challenge, putting up 84, 85 points minimum from now on, getting to the quarterfinals of the Champions League minimum. And once you get into those, it's then a case of what happens. Like in terms of the analyzing and analyzing him based on the outcome of we have to win the league, I'd say it was only last season where that I went into a season thinking that should be the objective. Like the 22-23 season, I think caught a lot of us unexpectedly in terms of that title challenge. But based on those two seasons of this season and last season was our records points total. And I know it's not a trophy, but again, it's something that's indicative and predictive of what this manager can do. And this season, I think, can be explained for a lot of reasons. And this is nothing to discredit Liverpool, by the way. I think one thing that is actually annoying me a lot is people focusing on Arsenal without crediting Liverpool for what they've done. They've lost one bloody game of football. So like, I don't want to discredit Liverpool. I'm just focused solely on Arsenal because I'm an Arsenal fan, focused on our processes. And as long as he's in charge for his flaws, I think with a fully fit squad, we are able to consistently challenge for the league. If you ask me as a fan, what do I want other than the obvious? I want to see us win the big ears. I want to see us win the Premier League. Fundamentally, all I ask is that I have a group of players and a manager driving them that gives me the best chance possible for a sustainable period to watch us challenge. I believe I've got that. I can't ask for anything more than that. I don't think there's a single manager in the world with the same circumstances that has happened this season that would have us in the same position. I don't think that, I think that like you spoke about Ange and Tottenham and I must say, like, I know your injury situation was probably the worst in the league, but like, if the same thing happened with us, I don't think we'd be talking about 13th, 14th. Like, and I know there's a difference in quality of squad, etc., etc. But just in terms of how much the fall off has been, we're second. Like, and I don't think the expectations in what has happened should be that. So I know that was a bit of
Good round, mate.
a yeah,
Good defense. Good defense.
felt quite
I'd just
cathartic.
like to add a couple of things. One, you go for your cups with ears. I just want the one that's got no ears. Two, you're absolutely right about if you set out the kind of parameters in pre-season, you say you're going to lose Odegaard for this period, you're going to lose Saka for this period. In the second half of the season, you're going to have no striker. There's obviously a bit of blame within the football club for
Of
why that's
course.
happened, but it's also unlucky at the same time. But that said, I think the frustration is also heightened because if I said to you in pre-season, at some point, Clayton, during this season, Manchester City are going to pick up 21 points from 17 games, you would think if I told you that in August, got to win the league. So
Yeah, see,
it does go both ways.
it does, but again, I don't think you'd be saying that knowing that what you just said about you'd be without Odegaard, you'd be without a striker. I still think even that you would say is like the Arsenal side
What I'm
we've
saying is
got.
people will place their narratives because the City's drop off.
Of
It's like
course, but
didn't
like
take advantage.
yeah, of course, and
And it's explainable as you've done.
this is the thing with football. Like it's all opinions, right? But like all I can do is speak how I feel, and like I'm not going to be able to speak for everyone. There's going to be different opinions, but this is genuinely how I feel about things. And like there's been I've always tended to be in the unpopular crowd when it's come to Arsenal. Like when
Just think
think
that's just full stop, mate. But carry on.
under Emery when we were on this big unbeaten run, I remember having concerns about some of the things I was watching. Turned out that came to fruition under Wenger when people are, oh, he's winning the FA Cup. Like, I was not so sure. And under Arteta, again, under that big period of adversity, there's been something in him where I've been so bullish on what he will do for us as a football club. And I do think Man City have really warped the perception of what is realistic in modern football in terms of this thing where you have to win the league every year. Like, we've obviously not won the league, so that's not what I'm trying to say. But if you could promise me that Arteta would be manager for another 5, 6 years, I reckon it would be a case of okay, two like the numbers I'm about to reel off are league positions. 2, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 4. Like that's football in my opinion at the top level. I don't think it is 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1. Like and that's what I think if he's manager for that long will happen. And I personally could not give a flying fuck about people that say he's been here for so long, he hasn't won this, that. I'm so confident in this manager's ability to sustainably make us challenge at the top level, assuming factors go his way. We have the good health. As long as he's there, that's how I feel.
Something for you to take away and think about, not to discuss now because it will never end and we'll never move on. But you mentioned towards the start about feeling a bit numb towards the end of the game on Saturday, kind of resigned to what was happening. And that might have been just indicative of what was happening in the title race, etc., etc. But I've felt like that in football stadiums before, almost like I'm removed from what I'm watching in front of me. I don't feel the emotion and the attachment in the way that I should. And that was because of the quality of football that I was watching was effing boring, mate. And I just think that's something else to think about moving forward. Now, there's excuses at the moment because of the nines, etc. But a labelled judgment, I think, at Arsenal that is possibly fair is that when you lose games, you lose them in a shit fashion. What I
Yeah.
mean by that is not like you're getting slapped 4-5-0 like my team might, but you can almost see the writing on the wall tonight, can't you? 1-0 at Forest.
Yeah.
Like it wouldn't surprise you, would it?
No, not at all.
That's normally how like Arsenal are losing games. You're like, didn't create enough. It's the same kind of recycle. You think of games you've been to, like Bayern Munich at the end of last year. Other games was like, yeah, shit, got beat to nil because didn't create enough.
Yeah, and this
Particularly,
is
particularly away games. I know Saturday was at home.
no, you're bang on. And sorry, like, I don't want to go on, but like, I've got a thought on the back of that. You're right. I think fully fit squad. I think this Arsenal side is capable of beating 80% of the teams in this football league, and I think we've demonstrated that. There is a 20% which you and I have spoken about in terms of themes of those teams that we now need to fix and work on. and he's the manager, in my opinion, to get that over the line. I think with the right attacking players in the summer, yeah, there will hopefully be a transformational dimension to this side. But yeah, you're right. In terms of the numbness, I do think a lot of that was me just processing what was going on Saturday in terms of the final nail in the coffin.
There will be no disgrace in finishing second to this Liverpool team, mate, who have got one individual player who is having arguably the greatest season in Premier League history. A manager who's come in, hit the ground running, and kind of refined what they do. One of the things they've also done this season, Liverpool, is not lose an away game. And I had something exploratory in my mind, and I didn't know the numbers around about sort of 10 days ago when I was putting our schedule together for our patrons last week. And I was thinking of something to do, and I had just had something in me with no statistics, thinking it really feels like away wins are on the rise this season. And I wanted to delve into that. And I delved into that a little bit, and it's very much the case that away wins are on the rise, obviously, as a consequence. Home wins are very much on the fall. What we've got for those on YouTube is a table looking at the last three Premier League seasons, including the current one we're in. I think this is from a site called Soccer Stats. And this includes the results last night, by the way, so it's completely up to date. And it shows you the 22-23 season at the top, 23-24 in the middle, 24-25 at the bottom. There's various statistics there. A couple to highlight. Home wins in the 22-23 season in the Premier League, 48%. That came down to 46% last season. It is currently at 39%. Away wins over the same period, 22-23, 29%, up to 32% last season, up to 36% currently this season. For context, we have had seasons such as 16-17 where home wins in the Premier League have touched very close to 50%, i.e. half of football matches in the Premier League won by the home team. That number of 39% is the lowest in Premier League history bar one season, which was the COVID season,
Oh
where there
wow.
was which was no fans in the ground. This is the lowest it's been for home wins in a Premier League season, bar the anomaly of that season where actually there were actually more away wins than home wins. I don't think that will ever happen again. But that number of 39 versus 36% for home v away wins is close enough that I think it's worth exploring a little bit more. Also, some interesting numbers on goals scored because last year had a real big jump in goals scored average per game. 3.28 goals per game is massive. I always grew up and I worked in the betting industry for a long time. Average Premier League game somewhere between sort of 2.7, 2.8 consistently over combining number of years. So 2.85, 22-3 is a little bit above that. Last year, 3.28 is really high. That number has come down to 3.05 so far this season, which is still high. Over three goals per game is high. But there's a few really interesting things in that. And I want to kind of highlight particularly home goals and away goals scored over these last three seasons. So 22-23, 1.63 goals per game for home teams, jumped to 1.8 last year. That's dropped to 1.54 this year. And he said, was less goals, so that's going to come down. But the really interesting thing is that there's a sustain here on away goals being on the rise. So 3 years ago, 22-23, 1.22 goals per game for away teams. Last year, 1.48. And despite there being less goals this season, that is still on the rise. It's now 1.51 goals per game for away teams. So goals per game have come down. It's only the home goals that have come down, and obviously home results are coming down. Right, so there's some statistical evidence here that something's happening, and it could just be a one season anomaly. Of course, it could be, but it doesn't feel like it. What's your thoughts?
I was going to ask you a question if you don't mind, because you said you did the piece on Patreon, which I've not listened to yet. And you said it was based on a feeling, like you didn't have the statistics. What was that feeling that made you want to go and research this?
Probably because I hadn't seen Tottenham win at home for about 3 months. No, it just felt like that. I mean, I'd say I hadn't seen it, but obviously there's things you've got in your mind, like Liverpool haven't lost away from home. I'd seen a statistic that was like Arsenal, and this was before Saturday. Arsenal had already dropped more points at home than the previous season, for example. City obviously goes without saying and stuff. And it just felt like there were weeks going by where it was just like, just felt like I was just seeing more and more away wins. And in like Portman Road at half time, good, I'll talk about this more on Patreon. Like I couldn't get no reception in the ground. The only thing I heard at half time was, and I'd done this piece on the Thursday, was every away team's winning. And that included like you at home to West Ham, Bournemouth at home to Wolves. Just like, hang on, this is, yeah, there's something in this. So there were two things that I kind of highlighted as reasons, and you probably alluded to one of them, right? The numbers are for home wins are approaching the COVID season. Now, COVID season we have to kind of put in the bin because of the no crowds in the ground. But I do think that a lot of the home crowds at the moment have things that they're unhappy with. You know, stop exploiting loyalty has been kind of hashtag all around the league this year in terms of ticket pricing. I've seen pretty much nearly every club in the league have a moan at some point about their atmosphere in home games. I go to the majority of away games. I can feel when I go to these games that the majority of atmospheres are not some of what I've experienced in the past. There are examples against that. For example, St James's Park, I think, was absolutely brilliant early in the season, but there are not many. These places don't feel intimidating like they used to in the past. Stadiums like Old Trafford used to feel like you were beat before you even got there. If you were a club like mine who was kind of mid-table and stuff, you just knew you were getting beat. These places don't hold any kind of aura or fear anymore. None of them.
Why
If
do you
I
think that
said
is
to you,
though?
if I said to you, like, right, most intense league atmosphere in the league, where do you kind of don't want to be under it? I would bet you'd say Newcastle,
Yep.
and that's also defined a little bit by experiences you've had going there. But I do think it's the one. My dad said this when we went there, and it is partly because where you are in the ground, but it's the one away game in the country where you really do feel like an away fan.
I've got
Like you're
a
struggling to get yourselves heard and stuff. But their home record's not brilliant this year, by the way. I think they're about eighth or ninth for
one
context.
one thing I've got on this, and like I don't want this to come across poorly, which it may, but I do think tourism is a big part of why atmospheres aren't perhaps as intimidating. Just because, like, not for a second saying I've got a problem with tourists in football, but like what you're associating there historically with intimidation and stuff. I don't see tourists in games typically going loud and stuff like that. Like, they're there to support in their own way, right? I think what we traditionally associate with loudness comes from people that are maybe more geographically located closer and associated with the football club. And I think, especially what I've heard you talk about Tottenham and tourism, like you're seeing a lot more tourists at football. I see it at the Emirates, where there is that kind of effort to get these people into the grounds because of the financial side of things and the amount of money they spend in the club shop and stuff. And I do think that may be a factor where, especially in London, like you do get more of tourism, I think, compared to other parts of the
I think
UK.
even still at the biggest clubs, particularly say Liverpool and Manchester United, you'll obviously get a lot of it as well.
Yeah, but I'd hazard a guess if you speak to Liverpool Man United fans, they'd probably say there's something in that within within Anfield and Old Trafford as well. I'm not saying that's the only reason. It's just something that's come to mind. Another one is just like this is a bit of an existential thing, but like life in the UK in general has been pretty tough the last couple of years, right? With everything going on with the government, like cost of living. Like I do wonder if there's an element of like football used to be people's escape from life. I wonder if it's kind of compounding it a little bit.
Yeah, no, I think that I think that's a very fair point because when you were talking about tourism, I think it's also relatable to cost.
Yeah.
The cost is, I think, is the number one. It's not people come listen. People come from wherever they come around the world, and more than entitled to come to football matches, right? And plenty of them do want to come in and join with the chanting. I've seen Koreans in the way end supporting Tottenham, giving it their largest in terms of singing, right? So I don't think these people are like not a problem in any way whatsoever. But I do think that the cost of football now, it was an escape for people. You worked Monday to Friday. You went to football at 3 o'clock on a Saturday. I'm going back obviously decades here in terms of the tradition of psyche for people in this country. Now, if you got kids, it's the luxury of can you afford to do it or not, and getting in the next generation of fans because I think I don't sing probably as hard as I did 20 years ago. And to be honest, the consequence of that, I don't drink as much as I did 20 years ago, right? So half the time we used to go in the ground half cut, right? And you really bouncing for it. And it's not so, there's a kind of whole different context in terms of relationship between alcohol and football fandom, etc. But I do think the younger crowd is going to be the instigator of your atmosphere. It's not going to be the 60-year-olds who've been for 40, 50 years. It's not. It is going to, you do need the younger generation to lift the atmosphere within grounds. And for many of them now, if you're like a student and it's like, oh, I'm going to watch my team at the weekend, 60 quid.
Hey, this is part of the reason I'm considering not going to PSV at home because they've priced it at category A, which for my seat is £82, I think. That's going to be the same price as if we get through to the quarterfinals against Real Madrid or Atletico Madrid. So hypothetically, we get through PSV, we play Real Madrid. Are you telling me I'm paying the same price to watch PSV at home compared to Real Madrid? Like, I can't afford to go to all of that.
But I also don't blame the club because
Of course,
the
neither do
stadium,
I.
the stadium will be full.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So I'm always quite clear in terms of, doesn't matter what the cost, I'm going to go. So I try not to moan about the ticket price. It's more like a moan for other people, like you're pricing out other people. I'm in a position where, if I couldn't afford to go, I can't go. But in me, I'd probably just wouldn't eat, to tell you the truth. But most people can't make that decision. They can't afford to go. I definitely think we need to look at something that's in terms of price bracket for, I don't know, 25s and under, that kind of thing. But the clubs don't want it.
No, they
Clubs just
don't.
all the clubs give a shit about really is what the balance sheet says at the end. And half of them are in competition with each other now. So for Tottenham, it's like I can make more money per game than you, even though you got more seats in your ground and shit like that. Like I do feel like they're at war with each other on the balance sheets and stuff. So to introduce these things, unless again it was something that was led by a regulator, which talks with fan representatives, you might help. There's been a lot of talk this season about the erosion of concession pricing across multiple football clubs. But I think that young ticket pricing, when we've covered this before, it's been a big feedback thing from particularly some of our patrons, is you've got to factor in like for the atmosphere and that how do these people afford to go? If you're a student, how are you going to Arsenal PSV?
I don't know. Bank of mum and dad, innit? It's
Well, it probably is, isn't it?
yeah,
But then you also be thinking, well, I pay that now, and then I'm not going to afford to go to like Real Madrid or Atletico Madrid if you win that tie and stuff. It's rough. You might have two of them if you win that, and there's a semi-final to come afterwards, right? Before you blink, you're like, I spent 300 quid on three football matches here.
yeah. This
And yeah, I don't think it's something which, but I do think atmosphere is to come back to. Otherwise, we'll get onto kind of this chat, which is off topic. But I do think atmosphere is a big role on this.
on the tactical front, do you think there's any factors there? Like, because I have
Yeah,
this
too.
feel. Oh, go on, sorry.
No, no, please go.
I have this feeling that I mean, traditionally, I always felt like away games in terms of the template of winning it. It was like soak up the ball, hit them on the counter. Like, do you think is that something that still holds weight? Is that something that's grown maybe? Like we spoke about before we went live, the quality of some of the managers in this league, right? And I know you've got an example that you give in a second. Like, is there anything in that?
Yeah, I think the quality of managers across the league generally is the highest it's been. In fact, I had a question yesterday on my deadline stream about how much more difficult it's obviously getting for the promoted teams. And I kind of, talking around the rabbit hole, kind of come to the conclusion that actually the best chance of a promoted team doing well in forthcoming seasons, you've got to have a great manager. Now, I'm not even picking on them three clubs and saying they're not. Someone like Kieran McKenna's like got a real ceiling in terms of what he can be, and I may go on to bigger and better things with all due respect to Ipswich in the future. But I feel like it's that because when you look at the 17 teams above them at the moment, you really start thinking about next season. You're like, which one of these can I see being in trouble next year? And you think about Pereira at Wolves, and you're like, yeah, he's doing all right. I think they'll be okay. You don't you like to your Brentfords and your Bournemouths, the smaller clubs at Brighton. You know they ain't getting dragged in. Got great off the field kind of analytic stuff going on, really good managers in charge, etc., etc. I mean, but say like Brentford, I think is a good example. Brentford are extremely well kind of done analytically off the pitch, but I think there is a little bit of a feeling that, well, if Thomas Frank moved on, if you don't get the appointment right, you might be in trouble.
Yeah, but they are
That
the
might
sort of club
that
you back them to get it right, isn't
that
it?
might be the case, and I just think a lot of these managers now, it's very much. I think historically, when teams have gone away from home against better opponents, it's very much been a how do we stop them?
Yes.
And I'm not saying it's not still that, but I also think it is now how do we hurt them?
Yep. Agree with that.
And that's all the way even down to I think teams defend corners now and think how can we score from this situation? Like I think it's so far in advance of what it's been tactically in the past. You said I was going to use a reference. I presume you're going to say Oliver Glasner, right?
Hmm.
So I used a reference on the piece I did last week about Oliver Glasner. And he obviously came in, he did brilliant at Palace at the end of last season, and Palace doing really well again now. And their away record, by the way, is outstanding. Remember that victory for Palace last night? It's only their third home win
Yeah,
this
forgot you said that
season,
actually. Yeah.
and yet they haven't lost away from home for about 3.5 months, right? Which has included 4 games in a row, won by 2 goals to 0, right? So good counter, but still strong defensively. That helps. I think there's other ones. Brentford, I think, haven't had a home clean sheet this year, but they've had 4. Tottenham have had more clean sheets away from home than at home. There's things. Anyway, the Glasner one really struck me when they drew at Nottingham Forest last year, which ironically was the last game they lost. This season away from home was at Forest. They drew at Forest, and you have to remember last year Forest were struggling to stay up with the 3 shit teams that were below them. And Palace drew there 1-1. And afterwards, he was quite deflated in his interview. It's like, I expect a little bit more. We should kind of, we're being respectful. Like, I wanted to win this game today. But then he reflected, he's like, but the people around me are telling me that a draw away from home in the Premier League is good. So I should probably go home happy. But you could see that he
Yeah, he
wasn't.
wasn't. Yeah.
And a few weeks later, by the way, Palace won at Liverpool, for a little bit of added context to that. So I think someone like him's coming in with a mentality and going, well, we're mid-table. They're fighting for their lives. We'll take a draw today. Nah, it's like go there and beat them. It feels more like that. Palace have beaten some average teams, have beaten some good teams on this run away from home. They do, for context, have some mad difficult away games still to go. Still got to go to Arsenal, City, Liverpool, and Newcastle. And yeah, Tottenham, if anyone wants to do it as well. And Southampton for a Brucey bonus. That's their next away game in game week 30. But I think the quality of the managers are now targeting points more often. I don't think that a Glasner, even in these tough away games, isn't going to go all them tough away games. Go, yeah, settle for a draw in all of these. I generally
No.
think his principle will be, I'm trying to win the game.
Yeah, and aesthetically, there's different ways to win a
Of
football game.
course,
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that. I don't think there's many managers anymore that go with the intention of, yeah, I'm just going to settle for the draw. I think they have different ways to try and get 3 points, which I think people may interpret differently.
it's also the quality of style of teams. I mean, every team pretty much wants to play out. Every team.
Yeah,
Who just takes goal kicks long now? I know teams do it at certainly go, right, we're going to go long this one. But pretty much all 20 teams now want to play out from the goal kick.
yeah, it was funny. Like, I think the one thing from last night where I was watching the first half of Brighton Bournemouth, then switched to the first 15 of Chelsea Southampton, like the build up from less so Brighton, the build up from Bournemouth and Chelsea was identical in periods. And yeah, I think that's how a lot of teams
And,
try
and
to
if
play.
you look at that last night, I mean, again, I only watched the start of that kind of Chelsea game, but there was a period where the crowd were getting agitated at
With
home.
the keeper, yeah, bloody hell.
Well, Chelsea kept keeping the ball at the back, but it was quite clear that Chelsea were rotating positions and Southampton were going man to man. So obviously, look, Southampton, unfortunately, just weaker man for man, essentially, and going to get done and did. But also, even with Southampton's a good example. I know they got slapped away from home last night, but the majority of their slappings really badly have actually been at home
Yeah.
rather than away from home. So even them, they've gone to Chelsea, they've set up and gone, we're going to go man to man off the ball here. Like that just wouldn't have happened 10 years ago. The ball would have come out from the goalkeeper and had just gone back to the halfway line.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is the evolution of tactics. I think a lot of these managers now are so progressive in their thinking. And I think that this part informs why football in general is perceived as more boring nowadays, because I think a lot of it is optimized to try and get results. And I think a lot of that comes from progressive tactics, which weren't really a thing 10, 15 years ago.
One more for you, which I didn't explore on that piece last week, but I haven't thought about it a little bit more. And it doesn't really add up as a consequence because it was something that was still there the last couple of years. But I wonder if VAR is a little bit of a factor in this. What I mean by that is clearly VAR, and it doesn't always, should come to the accurate decision, right? It still makes errors. But actually, in fairness, chances are, most cases, it will correct a wrong decision and make it a right one, right? Even someone who detests the thing can accept that. When you look at things like Lewis Skelly's red card at the weekend, which I think we can all agree it's a red card,
Yep.
but I even spoke about on Monday's podcast and said, I can understand why the referee's gone yellow here because of his angle, he's further away. Is that one where just consequently, historically, you'd got away with that? And then as West Ham fatigue, it's 11v11 in the last 20 minutes, and who knows, maybe you turn the game around.
Yeah, possibly actually.
So what I mean is by that is it's a psychological. How many times you heard it over the year? You'd never have got that at Anfield, or you'd never get that at Old Trafford, but now you will. So is there a little bit of that as well?
Yeah, possibly. I hadn't considered that at
Because
all.
the,
Yeah, I
the
think you're onto
psychology
something
of a
there. Yeah.
referee will get overruled. And
Yeah, I
also,
think
consequently, I think the referee's more likely to say, I'll give a penalty at some of these away grounds or certain decisions because you think, well, if I have got that wrong, I'm not just going to get chastised because VAR will reverse it and then it's okay. And I've not got Roy Keane running in my face and stuff like that.
yeah, possibly. Yeah, that is a fact that I hadn't really considered, to be honest. Yeah.
Something to keep an eye on. And who knows, we might get to the end of the season. There was three home wins last night, right? And it might level out and it might be nothing. But I think it's something to keep an eye on. Because we do, I think, naturally. I didn't predict a single away win in the Premier League this game from my 10 predictions. Even though I knew all this before, I still didn't predict one. There's something psychologically there.
Yeah, I can't remember what I predicted, but we shall see.
Euro focus, Clay. So off you go.
Indeed, we are going to Eindhoven to PSV because that's who my beloved Arsenal play next week. I've actually been to their ground before. I went, I think it was the Dead Rubber
It
Champions
was a
League game
dead
last.
rubber, yeah.
Yeah, great trip, pretty naff game. But on the topic of fans, who do you think? I've kind of given this away. Who's the number
PSV.
two? Who's the number 12 for PSV?
It's the fans.
Correct. The club reserves that number for the
There's
fans.
there's a lot of clubs do that now.
Is it? I never
Yeah,
heard of that before.
can I be honest with you? It's wanky.
It's a bit
Sorry.
tin pot, yeah, but
Yeah, it's
it's
yeah. Sorry, it's wanky. Although the choice between fans having the shirt or Emerson Royal was, I think, our last number 12. It's possibly debatable. Please continue.
but yeah, no, I think it is a bit tin pot and cringe, but when you understand a little bit more about their history, it's I think quite understanding why they do that. So they are originally founded in 1913, but some of their roots actually go back to 1910. So a lot of their formation as a club is linked with the Dutch big electronics company called Philips, who people may be aware of, and they were obviously their sponsor for years. I didn't know that they're not their sponsor anymore. I always just associate them with PSV. But yeah, the start of the story was in 1910. Philips actually founded Shock, a sports club for their employees. And then because of financial struggles, there were some workers' strikes that then disbanded, and the actual football club was then formed officially in 1913. This was quite a, I think, historic moment looking back because that was actually founded during the national celebrations, which are actually the 100th anniversary of the Netherlands' liberation from the French rule in the Napoleonic Wars. So I think that was quite a pivotal moment in the history, and that was one that I think started a lot of what is described as a very patriotic and community-driven club in PSV. And I think you look at the big three, as they're supposedly called in the Netherlands. It's Ajax, it's Feyenoord, it's PSV. But Ajax and Feyenoord are more they're from like the big cosmopolitan cities, whereas PSV, especially in the area and the region it's in, it has got more of that kind of working class background to them. And it's funny, one of their nicknames that they kind of proudly call themselves, it translates into farmers. I don't know how it's pronounced correctly, but it's spelled Boeren. So I'll say Boeren.
Boras, like Frank de Boer, maybe.
Oh,
Ronald de
maybe.
Boer,
Yeah.
Boras.
But originally that was actually used as an insult from Ajax fans, but they actually kind of doubled down on that within PSV.
Reclaimed the word. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, Eindhoven is actually in a region called North Brabant. And yeah, that from research looks like it's known for very hardworking people, unlike not
I
unlike
don't know
Ajax.
why, but I really thought you were going to say from research. I found it's a shithole. I don't know. I don't know why I thought you were
I
going to say that.
mean, I didn't
I've
love
never been, by
Eindhoven.
the way.
To be fair, when I went, I actually stayed in Amsterdam and I got a train to the game and got a train straight after. So I didn't get to see Eindhoven much, but from a few of my mates that went, they didn't love it. But yeah, like
How long did
Ajax.
that take, by the way? Amsterdam to Eindhoven train?
Oh, I want to say it was. I couldn't. I can't remember to be honest. It wasn't outrageous, but I couldn't
Hour and a
remember
half,
to
something
tell.
like
Yeah,
that.
something like that.
The Netherlands is really easy to get around on
Yeah.
transport.
But yeah, unlike Ajax, which is obviously based in Amsterdam, Feyenoord in Rotterdam, it's a very different area. So yeah, that's a little bit on their history in terms of their honors. I mean, they had their kind of self-described golden era, which was in the 70s and 80s, where they started to dominate Dutch and European football. They won the European Cup in 1988. Their first league title was in the 28-29 season, their first Dutch Cup in the 49-50 season, and it was actually in 1955 where PSV became the first Dutch club to play in the European Cup. And I think over the years, excuse me, they have had some outrageous talent, and I'm not going to go through and read the names because I think you'll all be aware of a lot of
Oh,
them. But
please do, Clay.
okay,
Give
I
us some
mean,
names.
the original Ronaldo's the obvious one, isn't he? I mean, he came in as
I thought you were going to start with Romario. That's the first
he's
one that
I've
came to mind for me.
so I have got him on my notes. I think he's someone that I didn't really watch myself. So I mean, he's someone that especially my dad tells me a lot about that kind of era of Brazilian football. And yeah, Romario is one. Ronaldo's the one for me that I think of. He came as a teenager. And would you say when he left, was he considered the world's best striker at that point when he left, or
Not
not
at the
quite
point that
yet?
he went
Okay.
to Barcelona. No, probably by the time of the end of the following season, he was. Yeah.
Yeah. Some others like famous Dutch players, Ruud Gullit, Ronald Koeman, Ian Robben, Ruud van Nistelrooy, and more recently, like they're not maybe as famous in terms of legacy as the other players, but like Memphis Depay and Cody Gakpo have been more some of their more like recent success stories. But on the sponsorship thing, I wanted to look a bit more into that because, like I said, I've just even from I remember Arsenal played them years ago, and like, I've just got this picture of Gilberto Silva. Can't remember if he scored or had like a key action in the game, but just remembering seeing Philips on the kits as the sponsors, and for some reason in my psyche, that's all I remember of them. But yeah, it was new information to me that they kind of parted ways as their main sponsor in 2016. So in terms of what actually happened there, it was Philips just literally scaling back on their financial role, and they started to double down and focus on more health technology, which I won't go into because that's got nothing to do with football. But that's the reason they kind of parted ways as their main sponsor in 2016, and PSV then moved on to a Dutch energy company for a few years, and yeah, they've kind of flipped around a few different sponsors, which still has Philips in and around it, but some other companies in there as well. In terms of their stadium, the Philips Stadion, it was really good atmosphere when I was there, to be fair. I don't know if it just always is or if it was just because it's a Champions League night, but yeah, really lively atmosphere. And it had in the away end, that the nets and all of that, it had that
I,
proper,
I remember you taking a picture from it with the perspex glass and all that. It's terrible, man.
yeah.
I'm not. Don't get me started again. Go on,
No,
carry on.
I know you're not a fan of it, but yeah, I just wanted to say like the atmosphere when I was there was great, and I think their capacity is around 30,000. Can't remember the exact number.
35, I think, but it's not as
Yeah,
big as you think it is. I think it's just
no.
not. I
But
think
yeah,
that
and
goes for all three of the big stadiums in the Netherlands. People think, oh, I thought they held more, and they don't.
yeah, well, yeah. So I've actually been to the Johan Cruyff Arena, and like that was kind of as I'd expect. But I think
I've
again,
been there as
oh
well. I don't
fucking
know if
hell,
I've
this
ever.
one time that camp.
That's the one. I might be there again in a few weeks.
You may indeed. But yeah, PSV, I think it was quite nice reading up about them because yeah, I always thought of them, Ajax, Feyenoord as the big three in the Netherlands, but didn't really understand the historical differences between the two, and especially learning more about PSV's more kind of working class roots. And I think it's reflective in maybe the size of the stadium compared to the others as well. But yeah, Arsenal play them next week. They had a thrilling tie against Juventus, which went to extra time. They won 4-3 on aggregate. In terms of domestically in the league, they are second at the minute. They trail Ajax by 5 points. There's a big gap from PSV to Feyenoord of, I think it was 9 points. Can't remember.
Them two, the top two are well clear of
Yeah.
Feyenoord and Alkmaar, who my team are playing next week.
Yeah, but yeah, Arsenal go to PSV next Tuesday, and I think PSV will. I mean, we've obviously played each other a few times now. We played each other in that dead rubber I said last season. The reverse of that was obviously the home game. Arsenal won quite comfortably 4-0, but they did beat us in the Europa League. I remember when we went there. So yeah, we've got a. Obviously, there's different Arsenal teams that have played different PSV teams, different managers and stuff, but we've played each other good 3, 4 times in the last couple of years, and I think it'll be a close contest, especially like as I've described what I've seen from Arsenal recently. I think when the draw came out, a lot of people were like, oh, foregone conclusion. And I was guilty of looking like, oh, should I book a flight to Madrid? As I watched us against West Ham, I think I'm gonna hold off on that. So yeah, Arsenal PSV next Tuesday, but yeah, you will possibly be in the Netherlands yourself.
A ticket has been applied for Alkmaar away, but I'm not expecting to get one because our allocation is 950. But we shall see. I should know in the next 48 hours or so. I watched extra time of the game against Juventus. There's a few players stood out. Player on the wide on the left, Noah Lang, stood out. It was a player I wasn't very aware of, but he kind of had the mannerisms a little bit similar to Eden Hazard. I'm not comparing the two players, but it was just something in him and his kind of his body stature and the way he wanted to draw people in, then pass and move and then carry. His 25-year-old Dutch player, I wasn't familiar with him. Joey Schouten and Joey Veerman and Jurdy Schouten, two Dutch midfield players you'd probably be familiar with from the past. Olivier Buscagli plays centre back, French centre back, has been linked with Tottenham a lot over the last couple of years. Talking of Tottenham, Ivan Perisic is there now,
He is, yeah.
which I literally didn't realise until a few weeks ago. Luke de Jong feels like he's been there for forever. He's part furniture, he's captain and centre forward. A name that might also be familiar to people is Johan Bakayoko, was very
He's a
close
good
to a
player.
move to Brentford a couple of years ago. But he didn't start actually the second leg. He only came on for Perisic with 5 minutes of normal time to go. Tyrell Malacia is also there at the moment on loan from Manchester United.
Another name to throw out, which this could have been narrative gone a narrative. Do you remember a player called Lucas Perez?
He's just joined them, I know. He used to play for
Yeah.
you.
He's that
Shite. Also went and played for West Ham for a little bit after you.
correct. Yeah, he used to play for Arsenal. He's now at PSV. Thankfully, he's not been registered for the Champions League squad because you know what was happening.
He's scoring a winner, yeah. Especially when
100%.
you've got no forward as well.
That's why narrative got a narrative, but yeah, he's not in the squad, but yeah, he's another name. But yeah, that's a wrap of PSV.
I don't think you'll have any problems. All I'd say is it's definitely somewhere where you could get beat in the first leg. And then because of your issues and confidence going forward at the moment, and Saka and Martinelli are not going to be back for the second leg, you are going with what you've got at the moment. I don't think you'd want a narrative where it's like we're 1-0 down on aggregate and you're getting into, yeah, that sort of scenario. I think
I
if
think it will be
you should
very
be all right.
close. As much as you say we should be all right, I think it will be closer than a lot of people think. I'll be really interested to see what the bookies odds nearer to the time.
You'll be comfortable favourites for the tie, no doubt about that.
Fair play. I hope
You're
so.
still with the bookies like third favourites for the competition, mate.
What?
Weight of money, you're in England, but actually, when you look at, I mean, you said you watched a bit of Barca last night and Atletico, right? Well, Atletico I associate with being tight, etc.
They were not from what I saw. Bloody
Right,
hell.
Barcelona got the same problems. Madrid speaks for itself. I think Inter's the only one of the Italian teams. I mean, mind you, after the rest of them bloody went out, didn't they, in the last
Yeah.
round? Inter maybe. I'll tell you the one I would say in terms of Champions League one that I think would be the surprise result to people, but it won't be too many. I think there's every chance Leverkusen will beat Munich.
Yeah, I don't think that's outrageous to think at all.
I wouldn't be surprised if Atletico beat Madrid. I said that to you as well. That's the one team Real Madrid won't want to play is Atletico Madrid.
Yeah, and Benfica, Barca was close when they played each other in the league phase. So bring it on. Looking forward to watching all of the knockouts.
Let's finish with on this day. I
So,
said it was a League Cup final. Technically, it was an EFL Cup final, Clay, because it had no
okay.
sponsor. It had no sponsor at the time.
What year was that then?
It wasn't that long ago. You think Clate's like, oh no, he's going to talk about something in black and white
I thought you were
again.
going to talk about Arsenal Birmingham or something. I was like, oh, for God's sake.
Well,
Oh, shit, it is, isn't it?
no, no, I'm not. I had a choice of two, and that wasn't one of them. I picked the 2017 EFL Cup final because I thought Southampton fans need a bit of a cheer me up
I
at the
can't
moment.
remember that one.
So, what are you doing? So, you're going to talk about one of our best ever defeats, James? Yeah, actually, yeah, I am. The 2017 EFL Cup final or League Cup final was played by Southampton and Manchester United at Wembley on the 26th of February 2017. Southampton had got to the final and not conceded a goal en route. Beat Crystal Palace, Sunderland, and won 2-0 at the Emirates in the quarterfinals, Clates, and beat Liverpool home and away 1-0 in the semi-finals. This was a decent Southampton side under Claude Puel. Manchester United made the final by virtue of beating Hull home and away in their semi-final. But in fairness, had beaten Manchester City on path to the final as well. United obviously big favourites, and of course this is Jose's first season with Manchester United. And what did Jose do? Whenever he went somewhere, he won the League Cup. Did it twice at Chelsea straight away, and did it first time at Manchester United, and then at Tottenham.
He got sacked the
He got
night
sacked before
before.
the final. And
Yeah.
deservedly so, and you will never change my mind. But yeah, Jose knew how to win big games. But I tell you what, you won't find many other finals where afterwards Mourinho went, didn't deserve it,
I don't know
and
what
they didn't.
I've got no recollection of this game.
And he
Was it that bad
openly,
or
I,
something?
I don't think he would have, if they'd have been playing Arsenal or Chelsea or something in the final, I don't think he'd have been so open and courteous about things. But yeah, after the whistle, he said basically, yeah, at minimum, Southampton should have been taking this game to extra time.
Oh wow. So what was the score then?
United won 3-2. So
Was
I'll
this
run
a
through.
Zlatan final?
It is,
I
yeah,
think it's
very,
coming back to me now,
very
yeah.
good, yeah. So the United lineup, I'll take you through. David De Gea, United wish for a lineup like this now. De Gea in goal, Valencia, Bailly, Smalling, Marcos Rojo, Herrera and Pogba, Juan Mata, it did, Jesse Lingard, Anthony Martial, Zlatan Ibrahimovic. They brought Carrick, Fellaini, and Rashford off the bench. Didn't even use Wayne Rooney or Ashley Young or Danny Blind. Southampton lineup, and they were half decent as well, mate. The tree was in goal for Saints.
Fraser
The
Forster.
great Fraser Forster. Arsenal legends Cedric Suarez at right back. Centre backs Jack Stevens is still there, and Maya Yahi, Maya Ha, Maya Yoshida. God knows why that never took off. Ryan Bertrand at left back.
I wonder.
Just imagine the grab your nuts of 10,000 Saints fans trying to sing that. In midfield, James Ward-Prowse, Oriol Romeo, Stephen Davis. Front three, Nathan Redmond, Dusan Tadic, who last time I saw, well, I think I was at the Johan Cruyff Arena, funnily enough, Clates, and Manolo Gabbiadini up front. Gabbiadini was making only his third appearance for Southampton, having joined from Napoli. Substitutes for Saints that day were brought on was Sofiane Boufal, who was a very talented ball carrier but quite erratic. Jay Rodriguez, good goal scorer. Shane Long, he a fastest ever Premier League goal scorer. Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, interestingly, was an unused substitute. Surprised me. Any case, Southampton should go in front early in the game. Gabbiadini scores, given offside. He was on.
Was he?
Yeah, no VAR at the time, kids, and not
How
long.
bad was it? Was it like crystal clear or
It's a
fine
clear onside,
fine
yeah.
line? Oh
Yeah,
shit.
it's one Southampton fans will probably tell you about at least once a week for forever, probably. Yeah, it's a clear onside. It's not the sort of one, and it's I can't remember who played the pass, but it was an outside the foot across line at 6 yard line. So it's not one that should have been given because you're there, kind of laser focused looking at it, you would think or hope it was ruled out. Zlatan would give United the lead 20 minutes in, free kick from about 30 yards. Sounds
Yep.
like a worldie. It's a great free kick. It's very well hit, but the tree is still going down trying to save it and has played several games for Tottenham since then, unfortunately. He was also perhaps a little bit slow to go down again. Stop laughing at the back. When Jesse Lingard doubled United's lead 7 minutes prior to halftime. Really nice link up and interplay on the left hand side. An untypical Mourinho team goal, if you want. It's a really nice goal. Lingard strokes it in. 2-0 United, game over, nothing to see here. But Gabbiadini would pull Southampton back into it, converting from a James Ward-Prowse cross, getting in at the near post in added time of the first half. And then 3 minutes into the second half, he would equalise. A corner was cleared to the edge of the area, headed back in, and it's one of them goals you have to watch it several times to realise what's happened. So it gets cleared to the edge of the area, gets headed back in, and as it drops past Gabbiadini. I think I can't remember who was it was in his back. It might have been Chris Smalling. He was right behind him. So he's pinned in by the defender, and he lets it come across towards his left side, and it bounces and he swivels and he hits it as it's coming back up. It's just connection is perfect. Bang,
Nice.
flies in the bottom corner. Beautiful finish goal. And that had made it, I think, five in his first three appearances for Southampton. I don't know if he got another five in the next 3 years, actually. But he'd made a great start and he'd equalised here. And Southampton thoroughly deserved to be on terms. They hit the post from another corner a little bit later on. Oriol Romeo with a header. And I remember watching it and thinking there's every chance that they'll go on and win this. It was untypical of obviously Mourinho teams as well to be 2-0 up in a final and let a team come back in. So I think there was a real anxiety at this point. But they had another corner Southampton with 3 minutes to go, and it would lead to the Manchester United winner. Gets cleared to the edge of the box. Ibrahimovic breaks down the right hand side now. Zlatan, at this point in his career, is obviously not beating 3, 4 men on the outside and doing his business. The ball transfers back to the left hand side towards Martial. By this point, United have carried up the pitch, and it ends up coming back towards the right hand side from towards Ander Herrera, has ended up in that position on the edge of the box. Zlatan's drifted off the right, in between cut the centre backs. Delivery's great. Free header, 6, 8 yards out. Didn't head it down, so the tree wasn't moving down, but kind of right at him. It nearly goes through for. So I'm not saying he should have saved it because it was very close to him. But yeah, Zlatan's day, as very much said. I don't think people remember quite the number of goals he got in that season at Manchester United.
I
He
think
scored a
it,
lot.
yeah, I feel like he did.
He really did. It kind of took over from this was basically Wayne Rooney's last season with obviously the football club as well. So carried it for a while, and then he'd had a really bad injury towards the end of that season. Zlatan in the April period, and I don't think he played in Europa League final, did he? Because United went on to win Europa League against Ajax in Stockholm. Ajax, I can't get them out of my head, Clates. I don't know why. That's on this day from 2017. Southampton were very, very unlucky not to win that final.
Yeah, that's especially the offside goal in the first few minutes. Like, yeah, that's something that will probably stick with them for a long, long time.
Yeah, I think when you have clubs, I was going to use the word then, but I won't use it. It's got 6 letters. When you have a club like Southampton, don't say it, Clates, because you're going to get me in trouble. When you have a club like Southampton reach final, obviously not going to get to many. If you have a bad decision go against you on the day, it will stick with you. I mean, that said, are you Tottenham fans still talking about Sissoko's handball like at least once a month? It's like, let it go, man, let it go. It is what it is. Cheers, Clates. Much love. Thank you
Lovely
very
stuff.
much. Ask James tomorrow is scheduled for 11 a.m. That time might change because I'm reliant on what the boss Suj's availability is for me tomorrow for our Money in Football podcast on Patreon. Clates will be back with me for the game review podcast on Friday. The game week is not finished yet, everyone. Be nice to each other. Smash a like, everyone. Hit the sub button. If you're on the audio, a 5-star review goes a really long way. Cue music, please, man child.